Heavy sandbag to shoulder specialization and high volume grease in the groove style pull-ups took my back to the next level. Here's how. It's no secret I'm a bodybuilder at heart, but I can't deny I often find the process a bit dull. Chasing one extra rep or 5 more pounds on basic gym exercises does have its charm, and the simplicity is comforting, but I'm often left wanting more. This has taken me down many different paths, each with their own unique benefits, but in terms of plain old muscle size, many of those alternative training methods just simply don't work as well as the basics. Yeah, crawling around my yard like an animal was a lot of fun, and it did improve my mobility and endurance, but I didn't really gain any noticeable muscle size from it. Well, a couple years ago, I felt that spark of excitement hit me once again when I discovered heavy odd object lifting in the book Dinosaur Training. Within a few days of reading that book, I'd made my first homemade sandbag, and a few days after that, I ordered the Iron Mind bag. Slowly but surely, over a good year, I built my base using relatively small sandbags and a couple smaller natural stones. Eventually, I discovered the small niche sport that is shouldering heavy things, and I got hooked. At this point, I was so excited about learning a skill, muscle size wasn't really on my mind much. I figured because I was lifting heavy things, at the very least, I'd maintain the size I had already, and that was good enough for me. Man, though, I was not prepared for what becoming obsessed with shouldering things would do to the way I look. See, here is where the sandbag to shoulder differs from other physical pursuits. Animal movement, as an example, does work your muscles through pretty much every range of motion possible, but at a certain point, you don't really add anything in terms of tension. I'm not trying to talk down on the method, I'm just being truthful. If you want your muscles to grow, you need to force them to handle more and more tension over a long period of time. Animal movement taps out relatively early in that regard, but the sandbag to shoulder just keeps going. And this is exactly the secret with sandbag to shoulder specialization. You will see some small improvements in muscle size when you first start, but if you want the insane benefits the sport has to offer, you need to continue pushing past where you're comfortable over and over for a long time. The first real challenge weight I pushed for was around 200 pounds. This took me many months of dedicated work, and when I finally got it, the feeling was unmatched. I did see some improvements to the way I looked at this point, but I hadn't gone far enough yet. I had to keep pushing, getting more creative with how to address weak points and how to manage recovery and volume, until one day I realized my back had gained a thickness unmatched by anything I'd even come close to before. Becoming obsessed with shouldering heavy things made my spinal erectors thick as cables, and my upper back and traps followed suit. This is the power of shouldering heavy things. Unmatched back thickness. This is only one piece of the puzzle though. What good is a thick back without that width to go with it? This is where greasing the groove style pull-ups come into the mix. Just about a year and a half ago now, I committed to training my back every single day. What I quickly realized was that 1. Recovery resources are limited, and 2. Life doesn't always allow for long training sessions every day. This led to me experimenting with the idea of volume accumulation. The idea was, on days where I didn't have the time or energy to train hard, I would just accumulate as many easy pull-up reps as I could throughout the day. This is what many would call junk volume, but I stuck with it and the results really surprised me. 6 months of this and my lats were significantly wider. You can hear all about this in my 6-month daily back training transformation video if you'd like. As time went on and more of my training became focused on shouldering heavy things, the greasing the groove style pull-ups became even more important. They balanced out all the heavy thickness building work with rejuvenating, lat-focused muscle building and spinal decompression work. Over the last 6 months, these two things have made up 95% of my back training, and I couldn't be more impressed with the results. If training this way interests you, here are a few things to keep in mind. First, this will only work if you actually enjoy shouldering heavy things. This needs to become your sport. I'm talking 3+ days per week at the bare minimum focused on it. I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff most of the time, and that's what it takes. This is actually the main benefit to the whole thing. If the sport speaks to you, it can be a very enjoyable process that keeps you coming back. I'd also say you need constant access to a pull-up bar or something you can do pull-ups from. The best way to do greasing the groove is spontaneously throughout the day whenever you think about it. This might mean 20 sets of 3 or 5 sets of 5. The number doesn't really matter. Just do pull-ups as often as you can. Also, I recommend staying far away from failure when doing your pull-ups. If you can do an all-out set of 10 pull-ups, just do 4 to 6 per set. And finally, I'll say take your time with the shouldering. Your body needs time to adapt to this way of training, so don't rush it. I've said this before, but it took me a good 3 months with lighter sandbags before I felt confident lifting odd objects, and many more months than that to build some decent strength, so take your time. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and even if you don't plan on running a shoulder and pull-up specialization program, I hope this has at least motivated you to get some work in. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.